Oh, Trump is coming in. Fast forward into the future.
Thank you very much, everybody. For nearly 4 years, we've been living through the worst border crisis in the history of the world. There's never been anything like it, which has brought untold suffering, misery, and death upon our land. The architect of this destruction is Kamala. When you look at the 4 years that have taken place,
Kamala.
after being named border czar, Kamala Harris will be visiting the southern border that she has completely destroyed, from what I understand, tomorrow. Why would she go to the border now, playing right into the hand of her opponent? I mean, you take a look at this. Why would you do that? There can be no justification for what she's done. There's nobody saying, oh, gee, she's done a fabulous job. She's done the worst job probably in the history of any border, not just our border. She keeps talking about how she supposedly wants to fix the border. We would merely ask, why didn't she do it 4 years ago? It's a very simple question. I can say this with everything she has. She talks about borders and taxes and all these different things. Her policies on tax, by the way, are terrible, but I can say it for everything. Why didn't she fix it almost 4 years ago? She's got no plans, got no talent, got no ability to do it. I'm here today to present you with the facts and only the facts about how
boring. Talk about
Comrade
Eric.
Kamala Harris
Talk about Eric
willfully
Adams.
threw open our border, helping to virtually destroy our country. Our country's never been under
He's more winded than Sam Sulek doing bicep curls, bro. What the
secure border in U.S. history,
boo?
with the lowest illegal immigration on record. You know the chart. I love that chart. I love that chart. I probably wouldn't be here right now except for that chart. Those who violated our borders were captured, detained, and quickly sent back home under the Trump administration. But on her first day in office, Kamala Harris terminated every single Trump policy that sealed and secured the border. She ordered an immediate stop to the completion of the border wall. It was almost complete. We built hundreds and hundreds of miles of wall, and it worked. I always said, walls and wheels. Everything else is obsolete, but walls and wheels, and this wall worked. And we were ready to build and throw up another 200. Could have been done within weeks. Everything was complete. The wall was all built, ready to go, laying there, ready to be fixed.
Laying there.
All they had to do is throw it up, and you would have had an extra 200 miles of wall. She never went there. She says she went once, but it was not the right location. It was a location that was very mild and no danger. She never went there. She's going there tomorrow after almost 4 years. She's going there tomorrow to try and show you what a great job she did. But even now, the numbers are terrible. And remember, they're flying people over, and they haven't stopped that. They're flying hundreds of thousands of people over the border right now. They never stopped that. They didn't think they'd be caught, but they were 2 weeks ago. From prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylum, all these insane asylums where you have the sickest people, mentally ill people, they come and they keep coming and coming, and nobody has ever seen anything like it. People that go to the border, they look professionals, and they said there's never been anything like this in the history of the world, and they are destroying the fabric of our country. She did nothing to stop any of it. In fact, she encouraged them to keep coming, and you know that. For years she did. Only recently did she say, oh, well, we're going to try and put a stop to it.
She literally flew to Guatemala as like her first part of her vice presidential border czar duties and told them famously, do not come.
In addition, through her phone app, something totally new now, it's a phone app for migrants, where migrants call in, highly sophisticated migrants. She's allowed virtually unlimited numbers of illegals to press a button, schedule their illegal immigration appointment at our ports of entry, and show up to be released into the interior of our country. Can anybody believe this? And this was
He's talking about
purposeful.
the streamlined application that doesn't
on
even
purpose.
fucking
This
work
was not
appropriately.
a mistake on their part. They did this on purpose because their policies are so wrong and so evil and so unfair. And there's only 3 reasons they'd want to do that. Number 1, they're incompetent, and I'm not sure that that's the reason. Number 2, they want it for the votes. And number 3, you know what that one is. We don't have to talk about that one.
Wait, what?
but there can only be a very few reasons.
Wait, what is
Because they're
that?
destroying our country at a level that's never been seen before. In Aurora, Colorado, Springfield, Ohio, these were two beautiful, successful towns, idyllic, and they're in trouble, big trouble. And very unfair. The people want to leave. They want to get out. But everyone's afraid to say, I want to get out, because they want to be politically correct.
I just want to point something here. He's talking about migrants that are processed through TPS, which means that they get their background checks. The application that he's talking about also is another part of this. And it's like literally Customs and Border Patrol processing these migrants. So therefore, everything he says about these people is wrong. One, they are legal migrants. He's complaining about legal migrants, saying he wants to deport legal migrants. That's number one. Number two, he's lying and saying that they're actually criminals and whatnot. They're not. They literally cannot have a criminal background for them to be able to get that TPS clearance. It also doesn't make any sense because they're stealing the jobs, but they're also somehow simultaneously still doing like drug dealing. Like they're both dealing drugs and also stealing the jobs.
The 818,000 jobs was a false fraud. It was a fraud. It should be investigated, by the way.
He's talking
But
about
Biden
ghost
knew
jobs.
about it, and Kamala knew about it. And they were going to release the real figures right after the election. But by putting 818,000 phony, fake, disgusting jobs that don't exist, by putting them on the rolls, it made them look much better a short while
Wait,
ago.
what? Never mind. I don't
They
know what
didn't
he's
quite
talking
make
about.
it to past election day. So to that whistleblower or leaker, I want to, on behalf of the American public, thank you very much. These people are a fraud. Just like nobody talks about it, but Kamala never had a job at McDonald's. Her resume talks about McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's. When I worked at the French fry counter, it was so tough, so hot. She didn't work there. She never worked at McDonald's. It was a lie. Most heartbreaking of all is Kamala's migrant invasion has brought massive crime into our country at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We've never seen levels like this.
The crime rate is dropping by unprecedented
I
levels.
think we did great. But David Muir of ABC, fake news, when I said that crime is way up in our country, he corrected me. He corrected me on so much, and it was right what I said. He didn't correct her one time, and what she said was wrong.
It's wild. It's
Try
wild
and
that this is just like
up
a
stories
prominent
with it.
fixture in the Republican arsenal of communications is basically just lying and lying and lying over and over again in the face of like abject truths. And just like back in the day, they at least used to try and say something. Like they would cherry pick data, or they would lie by omission. They would use like the normal ways in which you can lie, but then have some level of plausible deniability. Nowadays, they just openly are like, nah, they're eating cats and dogs, and crime is up. Shut the fuck up.
And she'll be out there tomorrow standing probably in front of the wall that I built, trying to say what a wonderful job she did, and the fake news will believe her because that's what they want to do.
That's great,
She
man.
didn't,
I love
and
that.
I hope everybody out there understands that. The Border
I love
Patrol
that, as
custody
predicted,
was-
when Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party go right on immigration, obviously these fucking assholes go even further right on immigration. Wonderful. All they do when they do this, when the Democrats do this, by the way, is normalize right-wing sentiment. If you don't address some of the insane lies that Donald Trump is telling a mile a fucking minute, all you have done in that process is normalize these lies. And you have people on your side of the political spectrum believe it. Wonderful stuff.
In Indiana this June, a woman was kidnapped by 2 illegal aliens.
When you look at the actual reality, when you look at the actual data, and you find out that undocumented migrants are 4 times less likely to do property crimes in comparison to natural-born U.S. citizens, or 2.5 times less likely to do any violent crime in comparison to natural-born U.S. citizens, you realize that hyper-focusing on undocumented migrants in this way is simply to just make it seem as though every undocumented migrant is out there mentally ill, an escapee from an insane asylum, when that is the opposite of the reality. And if there is no one that will speak truth to this insanity, to these racial screeds that Donald Trump is routinely pumping, then more Americans are going to believe it.
They're trying to make it look better now. But the damage was done over the first 3 years. They're trying to do anything to make it look better because it doesn't poll very well for them, but it polls very well for me. I think I won the election in 2016 because of the border. I fixed the border. I couldn't even talk about the border. My people would say, sir, nobody's listening. You fixed it. Nobody cares in 2020. Then I got millions of more votes in 2020 than I got in 2016. The most votes of any sitting president in history by far.
Wait, no.
But I couldn't talk about the border because I fixed it.
Joe
I
Biden
fixed
got
it.
more
It was
votes,
great.
man. What the fuck?
But now we can talk about the border.
That's such a, oh my God, every part of this is just so stupid. Like, his lies are not even good.
And by the way, 25 times worse and more deadly than the border in 2016. That was considered a good border by compared to this. But it would provide illegal
he's a sitting president.
Alien taxpayer-funded lawyers. And she destroyed the state of California along with Gavin Newsom. She destroyed the state of California when she was the AG. If you can't say the phrase illegal alien, she said, then we can't trust you to secure the border. She said, you're not allowed to say the phrase under any circumstance, illegal alien, but that's what they are. And it's that simple. She didn't want you to use that term. If you used that term, you'd be fired. And by the way, she fired everybody in a row. She couldn't get along with anybody. You know, it's interesting. 5 months ago, she was considered the worst vice president in history. She was laughed at, scoffed at for 3 years. She was the worst. Her staff hated her beyond belief. They were quitting. She had almost nobody wanted to work there. She couldn't get people to work for her. And she was just considered as bad as it gets. And she wasn't going to be chosen. No way that she was going to be chosen to replace Joe Biden. We had the debate. After the debate, they said, oh, this guy, we got to change him. I think we were up 21 points. But they went in there, and everyone knows they threatened the 25th Amendment. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. They said, Joe, you're going to get out. And Nancy Pelosi led the charge. And Nancy Pelosi has a little problem because her husband sold their Visa stock. They had a lot of Visa stock one day before Visa was announced that Visa is being sued by the Department of Justice. Think of that. Nancy Pelosi sold vast amounts of Visa stock one day before the big lawsuit that we all read about a few days ago was brought against Visa. You think it was luck? I don't think. She should be prosecuted. Nancy Pelosi should be prosecuted for that.
I mean, he's right.
Also be prosecuted for
I hate to give a bitch like this, a mean bitch like this, her flowers, but he's right.
On day one of my new administration, I will stop all migrant flights immediately. They should stop them tonight. She can do that. Just sign one little page saying stop the migrant flights.
Nothing funnier than Trump talking about Venezuelan migrants
liberate Aurora,
when he is directly responsible both on the processing side for offering TPS, including but not limited to extending TPS to Venezuelan migrants on his way out. Also responsible for the horrifying conditions in Venezuela by greatly accelerating the sanctions regime against the Venezuelan government and the Venezuelan economy in an effort to, absolutely destroy that country. And of course, people fucking saw that there was TPS to be had in the United States of America, so they came here.